Yo, what's up, Moki here. Over the past couple of weeks there have been several Apex movement developments. From Taxi getting banned for an ultimate dashing glitch to a zipline jump that gives you even more height than a hyperjump, and a lot more. Individually these things didn't feel big enough for a dedicated video, so now I compiled them together into this movement update news kind of video. Let me know if you want to see more videos like these in the future. The video is also split into chapters if you're just here for one specific thing. Speaking of movement, are you sometimes watching Apex tournaments and think, if only I got the chance to prove myself in a competitive setting? I would wall bounce, punch, boost, bamboozle everyone and easily get first place. Well then, today's sponsor Zilch is your chance to prove that. Zilch is the world's first skill-based Apex tournament platform that lets you participate in free tournaments. You can even win cash prizes in some of the free ones, or use the credits you earned to enter into future tournaments. The best parts about Zilch are how easy to use it is and how committed they are to fair play. You don't need to download any client or submit screenshots or stream while you're competing. They will simply use your games played, kills and times placed top 3 trackers to track your scoring. And you will even get a link to a live scoreboard to see how you're stacking up against the competition as you're competing. They use their self-developed skill ranking algorithms to place you in the correct division, which takes way more into account than just your KD, for example. And they have an anti-cheat vetting process and a score dispute system to ensure fair play. Sign up for Zilch today with my link in the description or pinned comment, play your first tournament and show everyone what you're capable of. On to the first movement topic. Taxi2G getting banned from Apex for abusing the ult dash glitch in ranked. The ult dash glitch is a way to get repeated speed boosts by pulling out your ultimate, then punching and cancelling the punch with a weapon swap. Only Respawn knows why this lunges you forward in the first place. This has been around since at least season 7, at least that's when it was first brought to my attention. I just sort of forgot about it and then never covered it in a video. It then recently got big again, I would guess via some TikToks. The big controversy around it is that Taxi2G used it in ranked and got banned for it on his main account. He then circumvented that ban with a second account and kept using the glitch, or rather exploit, again. It currently looks like his ban is only temporary. At least it seems like that from this exchange between him and Josh Medina, a producer of Apex. But he has been banned for 2 weeks now, so we have to see how temporary it truly is. I think his ban is justified, because in my opinion, the use and fairness of exploits always comes down to a combination of 4 things: extent, ease of use, exploitiness and intent. Extent is how big of a potential advantage you gain against enemies. Ease of use includes if there's a difficult timing or inputs for it, or what external things or objects you need to pull it off. Exploitiness is where it falls in between being an obvious exploit that should not be a thing and emergent gameplay. Things the developer didn't intend, but actually makes for a desirable game mechanic once it's discovered. Wall bouncing is the perfect example for emergent gameplay, and intent is how you want to use it. Just to have fun and hopefully not even bother any enemies, just to mess with 1 or 2 squads in a pub game, or give you a consistent advantage to win ranked games. Let's take 3 different movement or reposition mechanics / exploits to compare. The supply bin melee glitch that shot you across the map, the infinite stim glitch and the ult dash glitch. The supply bin melee glitch throws you really far, sometimes even out of the ring. You don't have much control over where you go and you can't go back. So its extent versus enemies wasn't that big. It also wasn't that easy to use. You could only do it on supply bins, you needed preparation time to punch the supply bin enough, and while you're running towards and climbing the bin, you could easily get shot. It was an obvious exploit though. And then there's intent. I saw no one using this consistently against enemies. It was fun to get chased by some enemies and then escape, but that was about it. So even if you would have used this in ranked games, I don't think you would have been banned for it. The infinite stim glitch has a huge extent against enemies. If you timed it correctly, you could even shoot enemies in between the stim and hollow throw, and easily use it to get top 2 in any ranked game. It was also easier to use than the supply bin glitch, since you could do it everywhere and only needed to throw a hollow spray while stimming. The timing was really easy to do. It's also an obvious exploit, no debate. I personally never used it against enemies. I only joined games with a pre-made team, and all of us never picked up weapons or grenades to get even in the temptation of doing damage to enemies. We also left the game before we reached top 5. So even though its extent and exploitiness are massive, my intent made it pretty harmless. But if you were malicious with it, its impact could have been huge. Which perfectly illustrates that intent with a mix of exploitiness are the most important metrics to determine whether something is worthy of a ban. At least in my opinion. Respawn is the one actually judging it. Which brings us to the old dash glitch. Its extent is definitely less than the stim glitch, but more than the supply bond one, since you can do it all the time after you got your ult and can easily use it against enemies. I would also argue it's easier to use since you don't need a specific word object like the supply band. Its exploitiness is not as high, since we have other melee interactions like punch boosting, and its dash-like movement is at least comparable to super gliding. Which again leads us to intent. With the example of Taxi, he used it consistently against enemies in ranked games and then circumvented a ban to continue using it in ranked games. So his intent was objectively malicious. The glitch doesn't have the same impact as the stim one, but the bad faith intent makes it ban-worthy. Again, that's my personal metric. So I would draw this green area. The more a mechanic, exploit, glitch falls within this, the safer I would feel to use it. Punch boosting, for example, has a way lower extent than ult dashing, since it's very situational. It can also much easier be chalked up to emergent gameplay instead of being an obvious exploit. Its use outside of slopes is more sophisticated than the ult dashing, but generally easier to do. And its intent is often to get away from enemies and not to use it directly against them, but still in ranked games. So it intersects with my green area way more than other obvious exploits. I hope this helps to clarify why I think Taxi's ban is justified and maybe shed some light on how Respawn might decide what's a ban-worthy use of an exploit. Now on to zipline movement news. The zipline Ultra Jump. If you put two ziplines next to each other or across each other and then zipline jump off them, you can get an Ultra Jump, which will give you even more height than a Hyperjump. Shout out to It's Fury who convinced me to give this one a dedicated name. So we now have a zipline super jump, which is interact plus 2 jump inputs, a hyper jump, a super jump plus another interact and jump, and the ultra jump, a super jump of 2 stacked ziplines. You can also get a normal super jump or hyper jump of 2 stacked ziplines. I have not found a way to make it reliable or predictable which one of the 3 you will get. While we are talking about zipline jumps, we recently got this clip submitted in the Apex Roller subreddit by Justice. In this, they get a hyper jump, but completely vertically. You usually cannot make it onto the top of this ledge with a single zipline jump. I asked on Twitter if anyone had seen this before, but to no avail. FunFPS and Faide and other movement nerds also didn't know how to replicate it.
Monkey, I saw that thing on Twitter and I was kind of confused too. That shit looked weird.
So if you know how to do this or have more example clips, please let us know in the comments or hit me up on Twitter. Another movement phenomenon I can't quite explain is this. A huge height boost climb after a grapple, like in this clip by nthinson or this one by Timmy. I don't think this is a boop glitch, which usually happens when you hit a corner or edge at a high velocity and is very random. This thing seems to be exclusive to Pathfinder after a grapple and seems to involve some sort of climb. I'm not sure we will ever figure out a way to do this consistently, but if you have seen this somewhere, please also let us know in the comments. Now on to new punch boost developments. After my punch boost 2.0 video, I learned that you can punch boost of things you dropped from your inventory, at least for a short moment after you drop them to the ground. This even works with your own armor. I'm waiting for the first person to get their armor cracked and punch boost off the empty armor towards an armor swap to then kill the enemy. The second punch boost development is about continuous punch boosting down a slope being banned in ALGS, the Apex Legends competitive league, which is understandable. it does give you a huge advantage, and especially in a competitive setting, I can understand why they wouldn't want that. Also because it might mess with expectations for rotation times. But based on that specific description, you are only not allowed to punch boost multiple times down a slope. So you technically still can punch boost one time down slopes, off walls and ledges, in water after a slingshot or octane pad, upstairs, around corners with a tap spray, or of your own inventory items. I don't expect teams in ALGS to ride that fine line and risk getting penalized. I just found it funny to point out this technicality. Oh, and that also means punch boosting down slopes is not banned in regular Apex, even though this exchange with EA Help that has been floating around the socials is claiming exactly that. On Twitter I pointed out that a random EA Help employee cannot determine what is a bannable exploit or simply emergent gameplay. Only Respawn can do that. This is what the Fair Play website says, by the way. Cheating is performing in-game exploits and abusing glitches or bugs. A. To my knowledge, Respawn has never enforced bans for exploits or glitches outside of ranked. And B. Supergliding, grapple slingshotting, every form of zipline jumps, tap strafing and many more can be considered exploits, because Respawn has never come out to publicly acknowledge them as desired emergent gameplay. They have done that with wall bouncing when they encouraged people to learn it in this tweet. So as long as Respawn doesn't communicate about a specific mechanic / exploit, we all have to use our personal best judgment. In my case, the green zone. Here's a weird Trident interaction that I'm counting as movement news. If you land one Trident on the back of another Trident, the bottom Trident gets yeeted forwards. This works most consistently by driving the top Trident onto a jump pad. There's no really a use for this, it's just a fun little thing. And some superglide news. There's a variation of supergliding that lets you superglide straight backwards. A big shout out for discovering this has to go to Thevilnside. He has a YouTube channel but sadly stopped posting there and only shared this with us on the Apex Rollout subreddit. I tried getting this down for about half an hour and couldn't hit it once. I even tried to do it with the superglide config file and a mouse macro. So I fully agree with his assessment that it might not be useful, just fun to point out. It's likely way more practical to do a backward superglide by supergliding to the side and then lurching backwards. Alright, thanks so much for watching. As I said, please let me know if you want to see more movement news videos in the future. Follow me on Twitter, join the Apex Rollout subreddit, subscribe for more movement. I will be live on this channel after this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!